Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
Welcome to Batman on Film's Satellite Show, episode number 25, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. That's right. I am host, BOF senior contributor, Ryan Lower, and joining me is another hero and a half shell. He's got a better shell than I do. He's a BOF contributor, and he has his own YouTube channel. He's just done everything. It's Micah Ramey. Hey, Micah. Hello.
What's going on, man? Glad to be here. Glad to be back in the realm of BOF in some capacity now.
That's right.
And hopefully more often in the future. How you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Always good to talk to you. I forget how, man, you and I recorded for my show, Batman Book Club. We talked Batman and the Mad Monk. Was that July or August? One of those months, I think.
Yeah, it was hot. It was very hot out
there. Yeah, I bet. I can sit here and say it was hot, and I'm in Indiana. You're in Texas.
It's hot for you, huh? What was it, like probably 70 something, maybe?
Yeah.
80?
Yeah, you guys are wearing like coats when it gets to 70 down in Texas. But yeah, it was it's so crazy because it's like it does feel like, yeah, I just saw you. We just talked recently. It's like, no, that was like 4 months ago. Snap.
It does actually feel recent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it just goes to show how powerful our conversations are. They stay.
There you go. They stick around.
Conscious of our minds.
It lingers. It's either a good smell or a bad smell. You. That might be it too. I hope not, because then I'm really sad for what's going on in your life. But anyways,
it's not much going on.
The topic of today's discussion has been lingering around for like 4 months too, because we talked about, I don't know where it even originated, that you and I had mentioned about we wanted to talk about this movie, and we said let's do it for the Satellite Show. Obviously the name's in the title, I already said it. Mike and I are going to be talking about the recent Ninja Turtles movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Sucker came out in August. They did a cool preview screen like a few days before it dropped, also the weekend before it dropped. When did you see this, Micah?
We saw it, me and my dad, Bill Ramey, saw it opening weekend.
Weekend. Nice.
Yeah, did they have like a so when we went to see it, they had a set built for the movie. Where did you go see this? Did you have a set there? Like you could tour. It's like almost like a little maze thing they had.
Oh,
for kids,
lucky.
But it was awesome for like Ninja Turtle fans like us. It was cool.
No, I didn't have anything. So I ended up the Saturday before it came out, which was the last weekend in July. They did like a 2:00 afternoon screening. Like I think Regal theaters around the country. And so I went to that, and I mean, there was nothing anywhere as far as like a setup or anything. And then I know that Monday they did special screenings around the country. And that one, I was really jealous because that one, I think they gave out a book and a poster to everybody around the country for that. And I couldn't go to that one. It was actually funny because you mentioned that it was hot last time that we talked. My theater, I bought my ticket for the movie and I went, and it was, Saturday afternoon, no clouds. It was hot. Got there and everything was all sorts of like mixed up. And it's because there was one of the theaters in the building. The AC went out. Oof. And so they just had to, shift everyone to a smaller theater. And then that became just a freaking mess, for everybody finding seats. But the positive spin on it though is I don't know how many tickets were sold, but everybody went to we all got moved to like a smaller theater, but the whole thing was packed. So it actually was like a really fun like movie going experience on a Saturday afternoon. Not like, of course there were kids, but not like it was all kids and then I was like the only adult, to where it's almost like too much kids it was a nice balance of actually like some people my age, some, parents maybe a little older with kids that were pretty young and stuff. And it was like a nice balance and actually a pretty fun experience overall.
Yeah, mine was very similar too. A lot of kiddos, which is honestly I like to see because
Yeah. Yep.
It's cool to see. I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but it's cool to see these characters kind of continue to persist on.
Yep.
And even with doesn't matter what generation it is, seems like just like with me and obviously with you, that kids, like American youth, just are attached to these characters. I'm not sure what it is. Like, what is it about these turtles that's so interesting? But they continue to perform well. So it was exciting to be in there with, I mean, mostly family. So you got moms, dads, even maybe grandpa, grandma there, but tons of kiddos. I think we had one row.
Yeah.
We were sitting entirely by a line of kids. I think this like daycare center like just brought a bunch of like 6-year-olds and they were having the time of their lives, as was I.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's rewind quick. Let's dip back just a little bit. So what's your, I guess your quick story on like TMNT fandom?
So I grew up on the 2000s cartoon, which is like
Cool.
kind of my
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh man, great. They had so many great accompanying video games as well, which I mean, my main passions were like nerd stuff and video games. And if you cross those streams, I am absolutely there.
They did a TMNT video game for the GameCube. I mean, I think it went for all systems, but I had a GameCube and I got that game and it was of that cartoon for the GameCube and it was freaking awesome. Like, yeah, it's across the board, like everything about it.
Up.
Yeah,
dude, it's
awesome. me and like it was like me and my uncle both just like one night we just me and my uncle just played it for like 5 hours straight and we're just having time of our lives. All right, carry on.
But yeah, so I grew up on that show and that kind of like defined what the Turtles were for me. And I love the takes on all the characters. I'm not sure. I think Shredder was awesome. Baxter Stockman was awesome. Everyone was really cool in that show. And then that kind of solidified the foundation. Then, you go back and watch, the old 90s movies, which are absolutely iconic. Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. I mean, big fan. I'm a big fan of the movies. Mainly the first one, even the second one too. But I just love the Turtles, man, in any capacity. I've gone back and read in some of their comics. Me and you have talked about the last run-in, which I'd love to do a show about that eventually one day because that's just incredible. There's actually a video game adaptation. It's coming here in the future. Not sure if you knew that or not, but yeah, I just love the Turtles. All thing Turtles. Any of the animated, the TMNT movie, which I think is incredibly underrated. When that came out in like 2006, I believe.
7. No.
7.
Yeah, 7.
Well, it's one of the other. It's one around that time. But I just love the Turtles, man. I love them.
Yeah.
I prefer them. I just think the Turtles really belong on like an animated Saturday morning cartoon to me. That's kind of what they are to me first and foremost. Obviously their roots are different, but I think they kind of hit their stride in all their TV shows, and I think there's a reason why it's worked for so long. And this movie specifically kind of has that Saturday morning cartoon feel to it. So gotcha. I think that's also why I enjoyed it and why it worked so well. But what about you, sir? How does your Turtle fandom begin?
I've brought it up on, I think, so many BOF podcasts. I'll make comments, but like I always say that I bleed green. I actually Turtles. Well, strange. I don't know if you remember Gumby. I know that was like way before both of our times, but people know Gumby. Gumby, for some reason, and the Ninja Turtles was my very first like obsession. Gumby was pretty brief, but for some reason, I think that explains my love for stop motion. Is because old Gumby cartoons were like stop motion stuff. But yeah, the Ninja Turtles, I mean, that it preceded Batman even. Wow. Batman quickly came in and, leapt over it. But the Turtles, I mean, I always say like, yeah, Batman's number one always, but right behind Batman is Ninja Turtles. Just as malleable as Batman is, I think the Ninja Turtles are kind of close. Like you said, with their animated series, like the original animated series, obviously that's such a great nostalgic vibe and what my generation grew up on watching and loving. I feel like that's probably like the lead look on merchandise that people buy. But then, yeah, the movies that came out, which I'm not a huge fan of the third one, but I'll still revisit sometimes just because it's like, I don't know, it's part of it. I never watch. I remember trying to watch, even as a kid, the Fox afternoon series, The
Oh
Next
god.
Mutation. Whew. But yeah, the first one, TURTLE Power, that movie is like across the board fantastic, still holds up well. And I love the second one because I feel like it's a live action version of the cartoon. But then that early 2000s cartoon, yeah, I was all about that one. And then um the and I'm not trying to do Mr. Hot Take here, but the 2012 Nickelodeon series I think might be the best
It's
animated
incredible.
series. I'm like revisiting that, making my way through it. I'm like, I really think that might be my favorite design. As much as I love that 80s series, like I think the 2012 one might be my favorite design. I think it's like they're some of the best stories that they have too. That's great. And then obviously original comics I've gone back and read, and like I'm showing Micah now, like the like Eastman and Laird Ultimate Collection Volume 1, like revisiting those, but then also IDW, they're I think 2010 or 2009 when they got a hold of the IP and started their comics, and I make my way through that series too, and I'm like, man, this might be the best the comics have ever been. It is great that like around that time two awesome versions came along. They did a I don't know, did you ever watch Rise of the Ninja Turtles, that cartoon?
The newer one, the newest one,
Yeah,
like gigantic Raphael.
yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
What'd you think? Okay, a shrugging of shoulders.
A shrugging of
I
shoulders.
I didn't like the designs, and I know
No.
I think I'd heard good old Justin Kowalski talking about it too, and he wasn't a fan of it. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's tough for me to even want to get into this. I don't like the designs, and they did a straight to Netflix movie I think last year that I watched, and I just couldn't get into it. But I want to give it its fair shot and revisit it sometime soon. So I mean, it's just like the Turtles, they're coming up on 40 years next year, and it does kind of keep reinventing itself, which I think is pretty important. And as you know, we both just said there were kids in our theater watching this newest movie. I do think that that is kind of important because that's who's going to carry on Ninja Turtles. Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, to keep it, I mean, there was even an article that came out like a week or two after the movie came out that um like retail sales had already cleared $1 billion. Um, global, let's see. The headline itself, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise reignited with $1 billion plus global retail sales for 2023.
Wow.
So it's still, I mean, still making, buku bucks. Um, and yeah, and by no means am I thinking that it has to go completely childish and kiddish or anything like that, but some kind of balance. And of course, I am a fan of the original incarnation that was, very much like a Frank Miller inspired, and like great ninja stuff, and it can be pretty violent and everything. And some stuff's violent in the IDW comics and everything, but I think there's also some good balance of like that the first movie in 1990. I think that didn't go kiddish, but it's like, but I was a kid and I could watch it. But it's also
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it's very cool. So I hope that it continues on. And I think across the board, this like just by reviews of like this latest movie had some pretty stellar reviews that I think really surprised me.
Yeah.
So
Surprised
yeah,
you
I mean,
how?
like I didn't expect
Like after you seeing the movie yourself, or just the initial
the
reception
the
of
initial
the Ninja
reception
Turtles?
of as reviews were coming out, and obviously going to like Rotten Tomatoes, which I know everyone has an opinion on and stuff, but the initial number,
Yeah.
it just surprised me. It's like, oh man, really? Like I did not expect TMNT movie to get as high of a score on that, as many positive reviews. So I mean, the thought of this being announced last year, or was it last? Yeah, it was last year. And then Seth Rogen was behind it too. Nothing against Seth Rogen. It was just kind of like, huh, had me scratching my brain. Like, yeah, we'll see it. Cause I don't think when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, I don't know that like actual critical reviews and stuff have ever been that favorable to the Ninja Turtles. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that was kind of it too. But yeah, I mean, this new movie, and I just rewatched it for our discussion. Um, I think it's pretty damn great.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Uh,
I mean, I get where you're coming from, because you look back at a lot of the Ninja Turtles movies, they're just critically haven't been received too well. I think the two Michael Bay produced ones are reviewed, I would say, as accurately as possible. I'm not necessarily the biggest fans of giant Shrek CGI turtles running around that are like 8 foot tall. There is fun to be had in those movies, especially Out of the Shadows. I think is a lot better than the first one. But I'll just say I'm not the biggest fan of live action turtles. However, love the original movies because they're just tons of fun. Love them. But speaking critically, like TMNT, that animated film from 2007, I think is incredibly underrated, and was just maybe too ahead of its time. Because I mean, you go back, and I don't know if you haven't seen that movie in a while, but it's really good, man. It's very mature, very like early or like original Ninja Turtles, how they were kind of designed to be, written to be. But with this movie, I mean, when it was announced, I was pretty excited, man. I'm a big Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg fan. And I mean, Superbad is one of my
Superbad. Oh my God.
It may be my favorite comedy, or especially raunchy comedy ever. And they kind of just took elements of that, obviously made it more PG, but this seems to be, and you're more of a Ninja Turtle expert than me, but this seems to be, and the biggest reaction I got from most people is they're kids. Like, they sound like they're 10 years old, 11 years old. And I'm like, yeah, they're teenage mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, they're young, which
they really,
it's my favorite part about the movie, is that they actually feel like kids. Like, they're not, you know, and I quote TMNT, which just sounds cool, but they're like 30-year-old men. And they know how to fight perfectly, and they know how to do everything. I really like this origin story, but not really an origin story. They kind of get to the important parts of the film, but the main focus is just they're literally teenagers, and they do things that teenagers would do, and they're longing for just belonging in society and having people love them. And it's the same things that real human teenagers go through as well, which makes the movie really relatable. And I'll just say my favorite part of the movie for sure is just the teenage aspect of it. I love it. And I think Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg shine in the writing of the movie. And especially the casting is just, I mean, the casting is about as perfect as it can get. How do you feel about all that, Ryan?
So with the teenage aspect of it, for sure, was one thing that not apprehensive about per se, but sometimes, you know, like as you grow older, you can start to, you know, you can change on, oh, this isn't for me. Like, now this is like, outgrow things. And so the further that I get away from being a teenager, you know, maybe the teenage stuff angle that comes out now, I'm kind of like, you know, that doesn't work for me now, but it probably would have worked for me if I was closer to that age or something. So that was like my only kind of, that was the only thing that was really on my mind in watching this too. But it was like, obviously I wasn't like, oh, this is stupid or anything. Cause it was like, okay, they're actually like leaning into the teenage aspect. Which, yeah, there's a level of maturity. And I mean, I guess because my exposure to the Turtles was, you know, when I was like 3 years old, 2 years old or something. So they were these adults because they were teenagers, you know, but really, I was going to say like kidding them up, but that's not what they're doing. I don't know, that it was something that was like, okay, let's see how it plays out. And then I don't know. So the 4 stars, Micah Abbey plays Donatello, or voices Donatello. Shimon Brown Jr. voices Michelangelo. Nicholas Cantu voices Leonardo, and Brady Noon voices Raphael. I'm not aware of any of these actors. I have nothing, which I think is probably good too, that as I come into this, I don't know any of them. Voices of the villains and Splinter, I'm very much aware of. So like Maya Rudolph is Cynthia Outram, John Cena, Rocksteady, Seth Rogen, Bebop, Rose Byrne, Leatherhead, Giancarlo Esposito, Baxter Stockman, Jackie Chan as Splinter, Ice Cube as Superfly. We will get to Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko, and Post Malone as Ray and Hannibal Buress as Genghis Frog. Like, all of those, coming when I heard this, that was on my mind when their characters came on screen, as opposed to the actual group of turtles. I had nothing on my mind other than, basically reviewing them as they came on screen and stuff. I think a favorite aspect of this is the over chatter over each other between the four. It's not chaos. It feels just like real, and it's also kind of funny, throughout, because it seems very, what do I want to say? It's organic and genuine, which I think is awesome. And I'm pretty sure I'd seen something that they said that was their goal too, is in recording session that they recorded together. And a lot of times animation now, it's solo sessions, which I've never voiced a character. I don't know how any of this works. For me, it does seem like if I were voicing, I would want who I'm in that scene with there too, because it just gives a vibe and more energy. It's almost like I'm saying all of this just to my microphone, and then I send it to you, and you and you respond to my questions rather than us just looking at each other now and talking. So I really liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, because you're going to reply differently based on how they articulate the question, or
and matching energy and stuff too.
Yeah, you're going to match energy. And I mean, what is it, like 70% of speaking, or I think there's like body language is like 80% of communication or something like that. Like it's the majority of what you're saying. Like you can say particular things, but if I tell you I'm having a really good time today at this podcast and I'm not moving at all and I'm not looking at you,
and I'm responding like this. I'm having a great time too. He's like, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's strange. I could not imagine doing any type of voice acting, whether it be animation or video games, and not be in the same room. That seems so strange to me. And you can definitely feel that. Like their chemistry is fantastic. It is. The turtles are the best part about the movie, and they should be. I mean, it's a Ninja Turtles movie. They should be the best part about the movie. I think they absolutely nailed each take on these turtles. They're all true to who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the casting new people, new and unknown kiddos to do these roles, or they can become their own version of the turtles, where they are slightly different, but you're not looking to hear, a particular voice with a role, which I like in anything. Really, if you're doing something new, just cast somebody else. I mean, it's a new character. Why not have a new person voicing them?
Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle? Not saying this movie, just overall. Always Raph, my man. My man. Yeah, Raph has always been mine.
He's so cool. They're so cool. Raph is amazing in this movie. He's awesome.
And
he
that's
didn't really get an arc, I would say, but that's like one thing I would say about the movie is like it feels like only one turtle kind of in a way got an arc, and they have like a shared arc, which is, I mean, it makes sense in a way, but they didn't really get that. I mean, an hour and a half movie, you're not going to have too much time to like give every character like devoted time to develop. So it's kind of a shared effort.
I feel like a usual trope is always, especially for like a movie, is Raph gets pissed off and storms out. Now I know he comes off as like he's the more grumpy one. I've always loved him. I think first the reason that I liked him was because of red, and red was my favorite color, is my favorite color. So I was just like, I think as a kid, that's just what you latch onto right away. But then I just thought like he's a badass, but also his stories always become interesting because he always has arcs, He's impulsive for sure.
He's the most emotional for sure.
Most emotional. Which is funny considering that he's also like the biggest like brawler. Yeah. But he's got the softest heart.
He does.
But like he's always like I said, impulsive. He says a lot of times what I think a lot of us want to say. He questions things. He gets a temper and hot-headed, which is relatable, but then it's like he always learns in his stories wherever something's happening. You know what I mean? So he does end up he's just like the most interesting, I think. So that's why he's always been my favorite. I can't say that I don't like any of them though. I love them. Like they're all great.
Yeah.
Here I was actually surprised that he was like a happier brawler in this than maybe happier across the board than any other interpretation of Raph. I think all four of them were pretty happy and didn't have a moment of like, well, I'm sad or something And that was like a little refreshing. I'm not saying that like to never have that pop up again or anything. It was just like, oh, okay, there's usually like a trope there of one of them gets mad, storms off. It's usually Raph. And they didn't have that here. Instead, it was all four of them. Seemed like they got along the whole movie. And that's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with them just being so young and they're finally experiencing New York for the first time and going and
Sure.
seeing things. I mean, speaking about being sad, one of my favorite parts about the movie is the opening and they sneak off and go watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off on the rooftop.
Yes.
And it's
excellent.
amazing. It's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. It perfectly conveys like how lonesome they feel and alone. Even though they have family and they've been around. I mean, they have a great dad, rat dad, which I love. They call Splinter Dad. I love it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just hard to get to those parts when they're just so young. Because I mean, it seems like a lot of those like aspects of, you know, Raph questioning things and being emotional comes with this them just growing older and kind of becoming more into their own people in a way.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they'll save that for the next movie. But as kids, you know, like I guess you're not really thinking about things like that. So, but I will agree. It just kind of like, it does kind of, Raph does seem a little tame. Like he has his rage, but that's kind of just his thing is I'm rageful. I'm raging. I've been wanting to fight my whole life. And I think it's just, they're just excited to be out there. So it seems like they're all happy, which they are. It's their first time experiencing the world. So they are going to be happy. Maybe when they get a little bit more used to it, you know, that starts to come down a little bit in the sequel or whatever's next. But I mean, all the takes on these characters, not Raph, are awesome. I thought Leo was incredible. The voice actor for him absolutely nailed. Like, I love their first introduction in Leo's. He's just such a tryhard, really trying to be a leader, really trying to like get the job done and be a good son to Master Splinter, and everyone else is like, come on, man, try to get in your
What does he say?
To get in your Batman voice.
Your Batman voice, yes, because it's all connected.
It is.
Yeah, that was good, and he wasn't too. Because Leo would annoy me when I was younger because
he can be
like
annoying.
The ass kisser. I'm the
is.
leader and you know, sort of stuff. So I'm like, I'm right there with you, Raph. Call it out. But yeah, I don't think he was that way at all in this. Like he's trying to like, especially in it, you know, and in the third act as they all get in the van and Raph even says to him, like, you know what? You actually sounded like a leader there. And then Leo like reacts to that, and then Raph right away is like, Andy ruined it. Like that was fun and funny to me and felt very like genuine. You mentioned a little while ago about their origin. What do you think of the origin for this movie compared to some of the others?
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
It's absolutely hilarious. And does it really matter, man? Like people get super nerds like us get really nitpick about origins and why it's important. And I think it is to an extent, but honestly, like whatever gets me to these characters existing is fine with me. Like it's already absurd as it is. You can't really find origin story with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and their master Rat Man that's going to be logical. You know, like it's never going to make any sense. Like it's already goofy. And I like how they leaned into it. Yes, this is absurd. Yes, how they learn to do everything is absurd, which I enjoyed. I like how they they go into the human world, they get attacked, and then they come back and Master or Splinter, who's just a rat, he's been mutated, decides I'm gonna teach these kids kung fu by watching 90s VHS instructional videos. Which are dude, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That montage at the beginning of the movie is fantastic. I like the origin. I like how it ties it in with the villains. You know, that's interesting. With all the other mutants that they are family, which is interesting. But honestly, man, like I'm not a big stickler on the origin. Like I don't think Master Splinter has to be a human who was a master kung fu guy and then merges with a rat. Then the turtles are there, and then like they're technically his son because of his DNA and all this nonsense. I don't care, dude. Whatever gets me the Ninja Turtles, I'm fine with. And I thought the take in this movie was done well.
Hey y'all, it's Bill Ramey, founder of Batman on Film. Let's take a quick pause in this podcast for these words from our sponsor.
I think my only thing is just like Ooze is involved. Because I kind of feel that's like the lifeline of the Ninja Turtles. I mean, that's the mutant aspect. That's part of the name. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay. So I feel like ooze covers the mutant part. How, why, when, where, anything like that. I'm like, yes, I don't care. Similar to how there were conversations of, like, I mean, because it's all connected. The Batman, the Riddler to me, where's green? Has a question mark, asks riddles. That's like, to me, that's the Riddler. How you do that and what doesn't, like, I just feel like that's it for like the Riddler. Batman, his parents were murdered. And he created a suit and is fighting crime. Like, that's pretty much like the basis of it. And so for here, I was curious to see what they were going to do. I think the only surprising angle was like human reactions to them made Splinter say, let's watch VHS tapes and learn karate. So it's aborting the whole ninja angle, which I'm not like against or anything like that. It was just like, oh, okay, it's a different take. Curious when ninjas arrive in New York, what they're going to do with that and how and stuff, but it's not like I'm writing that in my head. I'm already like complaining or anything like that at all. It's just oh, okay. Well, this is not like, it just doesn't feel like a normal route taken. And because I like the movie, then it's like, okay, cool. Like, doesn't necessarily bother me. And that was another thing that I really liked with the movie though here is because of course there's my first like reactions to it when it was like Mutant Mayhem, and then seeing that there wasn't going to be the Foot Clan or Shredder or anything was, oh, okay, well, I'm really curious what this movie is going to be then. And it looks like it's going to be, let's build up to Foot Clan and Shredder. To me, Ninja Turtles thrive when it's Ninja Turtles versus Foot Clan. Like that's my favorite stuff. Movies, cartoons, comics is when it is them versus the Shredder and Foot Clan. But they're going to build toward that. So the mutant angle here, I think that it all makes sense. They build on everything and add new elements. And I mean, you get teased about the bad guy for like the first half of the movie, but it's not front and center. They eventually and organically, I think, get to it, which is cool. And then we get introduced to all of the mutants, which I thought was actually like, designs are pretty wild, but also I liked them. Man, Bebop, that gut and those pierced nipples. My goodness. And Rocksteady, as they play on the boom box, and then it's just like, I love it. It's just like 2 or 3 seconds where it's like they're just like heads bouncing with the music. Heads bounce.
I'm Superfly.
Awesome. I was actually talking to somebody at work just yesterday about Ice Cube voicing Superfly was great. And I think
amazing.
Where most of the time in recording, there is a like steer clear of the B's and the P's, but it's like they told him to really ramp it up, especially the P's, and he's like superfly and everything's like and stuff. And I think like it really works here. He made me laugh quite a bit in this movie because I thought he did such a good job. Mondo Gecko, I thought it was Andy Samberg voicing him for a bit, then saw in the credits it was Paul Rudd, and I laughed even more. And then in rewatching this, I laughed with everything with Mondo Gecko. Hey, bruh. Yeah, bruh. Abracadabra, bruh.
He's awesome.
All that stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, he was great. Fantastic. I liked them. I mean, I liked them all. They were fun, I thought.
Man, y'all some little tortoises or something. I lose it every time he says that.
So we're cousins.
What a great one. What a great name for a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And two, what an even better voice actor. We talked earlier about the casting, and the villains especially are awesome. I love every one of them, but more importantly, Ice Cube Superfly is hilarious. He is awesome.
It's like they said how he was in the 2 Jump Street movies. They're like, okay, now can you ramp that up about 6 notches?
Yeah.
And he did. It was, I mean, it worked for me. I thought it was great. And I liked also of like, it wasn't Baxter Stockman turning into the Fly. Like, it was his little creature,
Yeah. That does kind of seem weird they killed off Baxter Stockman so fast. I mean, the Giancarlo Esposito,
Yeah.
which is that's awesome casting as well. That's amazing.
Mhm.
And he kind of got killed off real quick and fast. But
For good old Gus.
for
Gus
good old
Fring.
yeah. But
But I was surprised by that too. Like, oh, he's Baxter Stockman. The movie opened up with Baxter Stockman, and then 3 minutes, and then he was gone. Really? Okay, so I guess he's not the Fly.
Nope.
Right.
I think the villain was awesome. Perfect. And his take and the story was in his arc and what he wanted to do. It all made sense. And it shows, it gave the Turtles an opportunity. No, it gave Turtles opportunity to grow and learn, but also Splinter, because Splinter had a very similar mindset as Superfly. And I love the Splinter's arc in the movie. I love him looking at Superfly whenever they're in that kind of before the final showdown, and then they're all holding him back.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, rat dude, we're the same. We want to take care of our own, and humans don't love us. And Splinter realizes, like, man, I'm holding my kids back.
That's kind of how I sound.
Yeah, and I love that. I love Splinter in this movie. I mean, honestly, the Turtles are my favorite, but my favorite thing in the movie really is like these characters. Like, I really think they did a good job. Besides one character, there's one character I don't really like, and I don't really like to take on this character, which I guess I'll just get into now.
Yeah, do it.
And that's April. That's
Hey-o!
April. I do not. I think her character is fine to an extent, but this like Leo April love thing going on, I do not like that. I'm not a fan of that.
Donnie's path.
Yeah, I do.
Donnie's path. He gets the crush on April.
That. And I don't know, just like I'm not against changing how characters look at all. I'm not. But I think you got to do it in a way that makes sense. And in this movie, to me, it makes zero sense why Leo as a turtle, which I get why he would be attracted to a human woman, but in my mind, it's like you're attracted to a, slightly obese girl on, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not trying to like be judgmental or anything, but like April O'Neil has always been known as like red hair, beautiful. That's a part of her character is that. And in my mind, like, I don't see this character as, I know it's animation, so it's kind of hard to even say something is beautiful, but this character, the way she was designed, it just doesn't make sense for someone else to be like incredibly attracted to her. I think it's just strange. I think it was a strange kind of like, almost like, all right, we got to change one of these characters. Who are we going to change? Oh, let's change April. It just feels forced to me. It doesn't feel like it serves any purpose for her to look that way. Other than just to change it, which I know some movies and adaptions have a problem with that, where they just want to change something just to change it, which if you're going to do it, like I said, I think it needs to make sense. And to me in this movie, it didn't really make sense or serve purpose to the plot whatsoever. And actually, in my mind, it worked against her and Leo's little thing they have going on. But yeah, other than April, that's like the only issue I have. I think everyone just nails it. I mean, Jackie Chan is Splinter. I mean, come on, dude. When when they announced that, I knew that was going to be great, and he's amazing. He's hilarious.
I'll before we move on from that, I'm with you on April. I thought her design was like just strange. Very, very short legs, but then like, I don't know, just a weird shape. And that sounds sounds judgmental, and I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything. It's just kind of like, and they brought in, okay, so the yellow jacket there, they did, red hair, and then she's working on the journalism aspect, and it's like, okay, those are three parts of April that you associate with April. So okay, but I don't, like when she's on screen and the turtles aren't, I'm like, let's get back to the turtles. And there's parts that they did it to where there's a tendency, I think, on some like comedy stuff and like some sitcoms to be as somebody's, it's like people explaining the joke. And she does it a couple times in this movie where, it cuts her. She's like, well, it's not as much now because it just keeps going. And then they'll keep doing what they're doing. She's like, and you just keep going. And now it's not as good or whatever. And it's like, don't need that explanation. You kind of ruin the joke by
You're right.
explaining the joke.
Yeah.
So those,
Look, there's
those
a
moments,
rat. What did you say? There's a rat surfing on a turd. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely love that. I'm having a good time. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm like, didn't ruin the movie for me. I don't think there can be an April as bad as Megan Fox in the two Bay movies.
Bad.
Two movies, I actually do like those movies. I think she is really bad and probably the worst April.
Yeah, and she's beautiful, but she's a terrible April. Like
terrible
written,
April.
terrible take.
Actress. Bad. I mean, you listen to it and watch it, and she thinks acting is going. Just breathes so hard all the time in that whole movie, and that's supposed to be acting. I don't know.
The only Megan Fox movie I like is Jennifer's Body, and that's it.
Never saw it.
It's awesome.
Because it was like, okay. But yeah, so there's like my negative on it is like I'm with you. I'm not far from where you're at all. Might be like the same spot when it comes to her. And yeah, to me is more so that 2012 cartoon is like Donnie, he's all about April and has this little crush, smitten over April. And hey, my lady's a redhead, so hey, I get it. Okay, the redheads they'll do it. But even in the comic book, there's a little soft spot for April and stuff too. And it's just well, that's Donnie's territory. So another case of like, well, let's change it to Leo, and it's like, Leo's too obsessed with being a leader.
That's what I was. That's what like,
you can't be distracted.
That's why he's
love.
the leader. That's why like Splinter chose him as the leader. Is that he's the most grounded. Like he's not the best fighter. He's not the fastest. He's not the best tactician. He's just the most level-headed.
Yeah.
And I think we'll just kind of get into that. What I love about Leo is that, I mean, he's probably my second favorite turtle. Sometimes my favorite, depending on the take. But Leo's superpower is to bring out the best in everyone else. And that sequence of them when it's all gone to shit and, they think Superfly is going to win and they don't know what they can do. And the humans have turned against them. And Leo, becomes that leader. And he doesn't really do much except just, kind of steer everyone in the right direction and what they already know and what they do best. He couldn't come up with these ideas or do these particular things, but he just has that ability to get it out of the other turtles, that is Leo. Like that's absolutely 100% Leo, and loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Let's see. What do I got? There's some, bring up any, like little things that stood out to me. Leo, we already said Leo's Batman voice. After they get some pizza, they're at like on the roof of the Laird, Peter Laird. Like right at the beginning when the Ninja Turtles gather together, like together on the roof. That's the nod to the iconic like comic cover.
Right. White eyes looks awesome.
The school is Eastman High.
Yeah.
And then this wasn't like a nod. I just really enjoyed the whole like however they split up their names, and they're like, so you would be Leonardo. Leonardo. It's like that's an element of like teenageism that that was me. Like something stupid, just completely stupid.
Dumb.
And here I am in my 30s, and I'm like, that's stupid, that's funny. Then like it'll be interesting when this comes to fruition. The woman at TCRI, Cynthia Outram, a lot of deep comic fans know and stuff. Outram is the species that Krang is. So I think, maybe spoiler alert, I guess, for the future, but I think she's going to be Krang because of her last name.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
Absolutely.
That's kind of it on anything. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. So you already said your favorite part of the movie is the four of them together. My favorite part is No Diggity. when it is the action of all four of them kicking the doors open and how they match up the lining up of the characters in each shot. And then like that's the major action sequence. I think it's like in the movie because that is like them being the Ninja Turtles. And then how they even do like the shot of like in action. And it's like at the one shot laid over by the second scene, but laid over by the third, and it just matches up perfectly as they're doing all this stuff. And it's just you get to see all of them, all four of them have their moments of kicking ass too. Yeah. And I think with the music like that, you know, the needle drop on it, and then it is door kicks open, door kicks open, door kicks open, door kicks open, and then boom, boom. Oh my gosh,
and
so
interrogating
cool.
Each guy, and they take him to the next one, take him to the next one. It's beautifully done. It's really stellarly done.
That's my favorite part. Any other like highlights for you?
I was gonna say that scene if you weren't going to. That action is incredible. But no, nothing. I mean, everything else I really just enjoyed pretty much the same. I think it's a really high quality film. But for sure my favorite part of the movie is Leo bringing everyone together. It's very, very Ninja Turtles. It's very much that 2012 cartoon. It's very much the 2000s animated series as well. That's vintage. That's Ninja Turtles for me. That's how I kind of view the Ninja Turtles in my mind, which it really worked for me. Love that scene. Did you stay and watch the post-credit scene after seeing it in the theater? Because I did not. I did not. I didn't know there was one, and somehow I avoided all this on social media until last night when I stayed and me and my girlfriend watched it, and then we just kept it on as we were like walking around, like getting water or something, and then I like hearing things. I'm like, what is going on? So let me go back in here and see what's happening. And the post-credit scenes with the Turtles are hilarious, and them doing their different things in high school, which I love that they're going to high school. It's really interesting. But with Shredder, which obviously you got to do Shredder in the next one. How do you think they're going to do this take on Shredder? Because normally, you know, like kind of like their origins and the Foot Clan and Shredder and Splinter are kind of always aligned, you know?
Yeah.
But in this story, they did it with the mutants, which, you know, is a cool new take. And I like how that's connected. But it seems like they're kind of only connected by Cynthia. Like she's hiring Shredder. But what is he? Because she says the Shredder. What is Shredder? And, you know, like the Ninja Turtle movies.
And I mean, there's always a history of like Shredder ends up working for Krang in some regard. But yeah, that's so I stuck around just because, you know, I was just like watching the credits. I know that there's a lot of nods to Spider-Verse for this movie and some comparisons, and I think some are valid. I don't think some are valid. But I think the animation overall is very unique. And I love it. I think it looks awesome. And I think it is very different. Some like, okay, I could see how somebody would draw conclusions to Spider-Verse stuff, but I think it's different from Spider-Verse, and I think they're both great. But like the credits, what they were doing with the credits and stuff, I thought was cool. So I'm just watching that, and then it pops into showing them in high school, which I thought was a nice touch of each one and how they were fitting in. That's what I think the announced series for Paramount Plus is going to be them in high school. I am curious how that's going to look, because it's not going to look like the movie. I think that'd be too expensive. Shredder, I think, is purely saved for the next movie, as it should be. Really build, as long as we don't have to wait 10 years for like another movie, because I think this was successful enough. I think Turtles have made enough money that they'll have a sequel. But I guess I didn't mention that it was, I don't know if it was right before it came out or like right after it came out, this movie, that they announced a series, like a series is coming, as well as a sequel movie. I don't know. I have no idea how they'll work on Shredder, because Shredder is responsible for Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Bebop and Rocksteady are already created. All these other mutants are living in the sewer with the Turtles and Splinter. So it's like, that's usually like Foot Clan. Okay, well, we've got a secret weapon. It's this mutant we just created. Turtles fight that mutant. But it's kind of like they've flipped that. And so yeah, I have no guesses. I have no idea what's coming or anything. I think it was great that they even did behind we see like what 50% of Shredder on the backside of how it, so we got a good idea of like roughly what he's probably going to look like. They could change it and it's not going to be like, but wait, when we saw him in the credits, I think that was that was a fun tease for me. I think a lot of times be disappointed by a credit scene or something, but I think this didn't make me come out and be like, oh man, the next movie, blah, or anything. It was like rethinking the entire movie that I just saw, and then was like, oh cool. And then you get there of, okay, so in high school maybe that's the TV series. Okay, Shredder, I think that's going to be the next movie. So you asked me one question and it took me 5 minutes to get there, and then I didn't answer your question. I have no idea of what's going to happen with Shredder. I hope it's badass. I hope he is mostly what we know. Like he is high ranking ninja master ass kicker, because I think that could be something that gives the Turtles like quite a story and an arc there. If like where they're at now is like, well, yeah, we know ninja because we watched movies, and they go up against somebody like Shredder, and that would just like terrify the shit out of them. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I do think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. I just hope he's not a mutant, like a direct mutant.
I agree.
Which I feel like that's kind of what they were conveying. I could be wrong on that. Because, I mean, it seems like Shredder's an agent of TCRI, which, to my knowledge, is somewhat, that's new. Him to work directly, to be an agent of TCRI is what it seems to be. Because Cynthia Erstrom wants to take out the Turtles and get all these mutants back or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she decides, let's use the Shredder or whatever she says. And that's when it cuts to him. So we're both guessing here, and I don't want to assume anything, but with every take they did on, besides April in this movie, I thought they hit it out of the park. So I'm sure they'll be fine in the next one. But yeah. My personal wish is I just don't want Shredder to be a mutant. I think that's kind of lame. Like I think it's the human aspect is super interesting with Shredder.
Did you watch all of the 2000 series, animated series?
Yes.
You did.
A while though. I've definitely watched all of it. It's been a while.
So I have not seen all of that series. I watched, it was like the made for TV movie. It was like Turtles Forever. It was like a 45-minute episode, or maybe it was like over an hour, like an actual movie. Yeah. In that, it implied, or it showed that like Shredder was an Utrum, a Krang. Is that Shredder or is that for that movie only? Like in that series, does it reveal itself in the animated series? It's one of those
things where it's like written into it.
Okay.
Like, oh, the whole time he was this, but the writer's intent at the time of when Shredder was in the show was not that it was that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay.
I remember that too, and I don't like that. I like normal, just human.
He's
Shredder.
a ninja.
That's why I didn't like Shredder in the Ninja Turtles movie, where he's a giant Transformer, Decepticon looking thing, and
I didn't mind him until it was like 190 pounds of metal and knives on him. And then I was like, that's too much.
It's too much.
You took away what he's so good with, which is just him. And then it's like, okay, he's good. He's great, actually, with nothing. And now he's freaking deadly because he does have, all it takes is 2 on each hand. And that, like, man, oof. So we'll see. That's my hopes. And if it comes out he is a mutant, it's like, I'm gonna give them their fair shake because they nailed this movie. So sure, but
I'm with you.
My hopes, he's human and he's just really, really good. So,
I just wonder how they're gonna tie that into the motives of the Turtles, because that's always how it's so interesting, is how Splinter and Shredder were together.
Yep. Yeah. So that
this is like the first time I've seen it where they have no connection whatsoever. whatsoever, which can be interesting. It's something new, but
Yeah,
we
something
will
new,
have to
but
see. Yeah.
there's just one element like we just said, hope is human. It's like this, that's just like one thing. Just like with the turtles in their origin, it's like, well, ooze is involved. Like it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. You can do something very different and still have that one common thread taking hold, So I don't know. Do you have any kind of like final thoughts about this before we head on out of here?
Only final thoughts I can think of is if somehow you made it this far and haven't watched the movie, shame on you. How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
But hopefully, you watch the movie, and you listen to this, that this was a good accompanying conversation to the film. I'm really excited for the next one. The series I'll probably watch as well. I mean, is the original voice acting
I think
coming
so.
back for that?
I
That's
think,
awesome.
yeah, I think I haven't revisited the article or anything like that, which I probably should have real quick, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's out
that's
there.
fine.
Look it up. And
Yeah,
I think it
I
was the
just
same guys coming back.
I think it was just a really great and another great Ninja Turtles movie. We have a lot of them. I mean, the Ninja Turtles have gone on for so long, and I think it was just such a joy to see a lot of people in the theaters, a lot of kiddos, especially, just loving the Turtles. Like I could see like the seeds of their Ninja Turtles fandom that's gonna last like just as long as it has for us. Like I could see it, how excited they were, and it's cool. Like getting your own, Ninja Turtles movie like that you grew up
Yeah.
with. You can always go back and visit the older ones, but you're
Yep,
gonna
they'll
have
always
your
be
own.
there.
Which is, I mean, to me, it's just, it makes me happy to see that the Turtles are still doing well, and I think they will for a long, long time. It's such a, like you said, malleable characters and franchise, and Mutant Mayhem I thought was an excellent film overall. How about you, Mr. Lauer? What do you got in closing?
Very happy with this movie. I don't want to say surprised, but maybe a little surprised of like how good I ended up finding it, and then even revisiting it, that I'm like, yeah, this movie's good. Maybe only disappointment. Okay, so we talked about April, but I don't even say that I'm fully disappointed in April, because it's not like I watched Ninja Turtles and I'm watching for April.
I agree.
So Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, their score. It was interesting that their score totally worked for the movie. Looking up to listen to it, just to listen to it, I don't like it. Now, it's like, not I don't like it. I can't listen to it just on its own, because there's a lot of weird pitch, sound, and everything, to where it's like, this doesn't feel like music. And once it starts to hit music, then it drops into something else. Like you're trying to plug in an amp and you're missing, but it's still rattling a lot. Like that's all over the place. But yet it's like, oh, this is interesting, because in the movie it freaking works from beginning to end. I think like nailed it. It's so cool. Like that's a great element of the movie, is the soundtrack throughout, and then obviously like the needle drops and stuff too. But overall, I mean, I thought it was a really good movie, and I hope that it gives the IP a boost so it can continue on this iteration, and then whenever that dries up, they have another iteration that could be exciting. I just hope that it does continue on. But like I said, but we got all the other good stuff we can look back on and revisit too. But yeah, really, really happy with this movie. And it got me in turtle fever for the past few months now too, of watching and reading some stuff. So TURTLE power. Go Ninja Go was in the car when they were in the garage too. There we go. I didn't write that down. Obviously that right away can be like booyah. So yeah, good stuff. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Revisit it if you've seen it before. If you haven't seen it, we didn't spoil it. I think anybody listening to this that hasn't seen it, they could go watch it, and it would be fresh for them.
Yeah.
So, Micah, thanks for taking an hour to sit down and talk some turtles with me today.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for not milking me.
Yeah,
nice.
We didn't even talk about the milking aspect. What a great payoff that was when that happened too.
That was a great payoff. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you want to plug?
Sure. Yeah, I got my operation back up and running. For a while I was living out of bags and didn't have all my sounds
living in the sewers.
Living in the sewers.
They're in Texas.
Yeah, in the hot Texas sewers, man. It sure stunk. It was difficult. It was difficult. But yeah, I should be have my YouTube channel back up and running. Find me at Micah Ramey, Twitter, the same thing. If you want. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We really appreciate it. And Mr. Lauer, thanks for inviting me. This was fun, and discussing anything with you is always a good time.
Absolutely. Well, it's a gem. You're too kind. And this probably won't be the last time that you and I talk turtles. I can guarantee this will not be the last time we talk turtles. As for me, check out my podcast that Mike has been on a few times called the Batman Book Club. This month, they are not being posted on BOF because I did not want to bombard Bill with an 8-part podcast series that I'm doing with Paul Herman of One Bad Month, covering all of the One Bad Day books that were released. There's 8 of them, so we're doing 8 episodes, and they're coming pretty fast all this month. So I just didn't want to be like, hey, Bill, can you post this up? Because then it's just too much. But wherever you listen to podcasts, look up my show, The Batman Book Club, Twitter, Instagram, at The Batman BC, and you can follow all of that stuff and dig through the archives and listen to me and Michael talk some Batman comics. It's pretty good stuff. So, yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the Satellite Show. Not the last time that we'll talk turtles on it. Yeah, so for Micah, I am Ryan, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care, guys.
You've been listening to the Batman on Film Satellite Show, BOF's non-Batman pop culture podcast. Follow the show on Twitter at BOF Show. Follow BOF on Twitter at The Batman on Film. For all of Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film, established in 1998.